Hey guys, it's Key here from Kegland. I'm just talking about Sodastream machines today. Now I love these machines because they're such a convenient way to make soda water. They fit on top of your bench top and they're fairly inexpensive, but the real problem with Sodastream machines, I guess, is these little CO2 gas cylinders are kind of expensive to fill. One of these little guys, which holds 400 grams, costs about $20 to fill, but also one of our larger 2.6 kilogram gas cylinders costs about $25 or $30 to fill. So the fill cost doesn't really make sense. It makes a lot more economy to go up to one of these larger cylinders, which essentially holds about 6.5 times as much gas. So yeah, a lot of people say, well, how can I use my large 2.6 gas cylinder with one of these Sodastream machines? Now we do have larger, again, 6 kilo gas cylinders, and they're even slightly better economy again, but to be honest with you, most of the people using these types of machines already find this 2.6 to be adequate. So what we've got as a solution to this is our Sodastream adapter hose. So these are a really, really handy device. They fit on pretty much any Sodastream machine, definitely any Sodastream machine we've ever come across with anyway. They're really, really easy to use, and all they will do is tether essentially this large gas cylinder to your Sodastream machine. A lot of people say, well, aren't these at a higher pressure, so shouldn't I have some type of regulator to join my large gas cylinder and my Sodastream machine? But that's not necessary at all, because these gas cylinders operate on high pressure just like these ones do. Same pressure in both cylinders. It's liquefied CO2, and yeah, it's the same pressure irrespective of the size. So it's high pressure gas going through this hose and then going into the back of the machine. For that reason, we use high pressure hose rated to about 300 bar. So what you first do is get the machine. Now there's various different types of Sodastream machines. This one particular one that I picked up from the store is the Spirit. So this one is nice and easy because the back comes off, so it does mean it's really accessible to get into the back component. So normally I would screw this Sodastream cylinder into the back of the machine like so, but yeah, I'm not going to do that today because we're showing you how to use this one. So you screw in the hose like so. Now it doesn't have to be ridiculously tight on the back of the machine here. You just want it so it's just sort of snug, similar to the cylinders. I mean, you don't use a spanner to do these up. And just because it is a plastic thread which you have on the top here, so you could over tighten it and crack the thread on the Sodastream machine. So we're just going to go finger tight. So yeah, just like that's enough. Now you can see when I've got this attached to the back of the machine, now I've got this hose kind of hanging out, and that's probably fine like that, but if you want to make it look a bit nicer, some people might also just nip a little bit out of this with a pair of tin snips or drill a hole through there so they can feed the hose through the back of the machine. You can still put the back of the machine on. So that looks a little bit better if you can be bothered doing that, but for the demonstration, I'm not going to do that. Now the other thing is, on the other side of the hose, these particular hoses come with a quick disconnect fitting. So if you look at this side here, we've got a high pressure quick disconnect. So that just disconnects like that. Now there's a bit of a reason we've got a quick disconnect on there, because these hoses, once we've disconnected this bulky head off the fitting, this is quite a small diameter. It's about 15 mil or so, and the reason why we want to take off this head is sometimes you want to also drill a hole through your bench top, and you want to be able to feed the hose through and have the CO2 gas cylinder underneath the counter or stored in a cupboard somewhere, or somewhere where it's discreetly hidden. So all you see is the neat little Sodastream machine on top of the bench top. So if you're worried about sort of how it looks, look, maybe you can go to that type of effort. You can plumb these in so nobody would even know you're using a large cylinder. You can just have this neat little, nice looking Sodastream machine on the bench, and you can hide the ugly gas cylinder, under the counter or something like that. And had we not had a quick disconnect, it means you would have to drill quite a large hole. So this hole would have to be, almost, probably something like 40, 50 mil through the top of your bench top. So that's the reason we've got a quick disconnect. The other thing to remember, just looking into the quick disconnect, you've got to make sure there's 2 O-rings in there. There's 2 polyurethane O-rings that we put in there. Just make sure they're in place and they're seated correctly before you use the unit. So plug the unit on like that, and we put the other side onto the gas cylinder like so. Fairly straightforward. This side I am going to use a shifter or a spanner, so I'm just going to do that up like that. Once again, doesn't have to be ridiculously tight, but just just sort of firm, I guess. Now this side has a high pressure gauge, so you'll see when I turn the gas cylinder on, I'm going to be able to read the high pressure gauge on here, and it'll start reading. Now these types of high pressure gauges, you also got to remember, they're not a good indication of how much gas is left, so don't really rely on it for that. You'll notice it'll keep a certain pressure, and it'll pretty much stay at the same pressure throughout the whole use of this gas cylinder, and then right at the end, the pressure will drop down really suddenly. So it's not a really good measure of how much gas you got left. It's just a measure of the fact that you do have some gas in there at least. If you really want to measure how much gas you got in the big cylinder left, you really got to weigh this guy. So our 2.6 kilogram gas cylinders, when they're full, they weigh about 10 kilos. When they're empty, they weigh about 7.5 or something like that, and you can do the math. Yeah, so I've got all that hooked up. I've turned my gas cylinder on. I've got my connections all here. And the next step is you'd probably check that you've got no leaks as well. So you can either use some soapy water around these joints and just make sure you don't have any bubbles coming out. Another way to check for leaks is also turn this gas cylinder off and actually use this pressure gauge and see if the pressure drops. If the pressure drops over time when this gas cylinder valve is turned off, then you know you've got a leak somewhere in the system and gas is coming out. But anyway, I'll sort of just bypass that because I don't have time to go too much into depth with that. So with your Sodastream bottles that come with the machine, use them as you would per the instructions in the box that comes with the Sodastream machine. Always make sure you try to chill the water as much as possible, because that way it'll absorb the gas really easily. Always CO2 is going to absorb into CO2 is going to absorb into the water more easily if the water's cold. Also make sure the head space is adequate. So if there's not enough head space, it's really hard to get enough gas to absorb into solution. This particular machine just pushes down like that, and then all we need to do is go like this, and you can see, oops, I actually had that turned off. So I'm going to turn that back on. There we go. And that's it. So there you have it. We've got some nice bubbly soda water, which I've made in a flash, and it's costed me a fraction of what it would with these these smaller gas cylinders. So to give you an idea of how much you're going to get out of one of these, a 2.6 kilogram gas cylinder will do about 390 litres and cost you something in the vicinity of, I don't know, well, in Australia they cost about $30 to fill, something in that ballpark. If you went to one of our large 6 kilo gas cylinders, they'll do about 900 litres. So you really do get fantastic economy. It feels like with these large gas cylinders, your Sodastream machine just lasts forever. In fact, you only have to use about one of these gas cylinders and empty it, and I'm pretty sure that if you do the numbers, you'll find out it's pretty close to paying off the whole system anyway. So the very first time you refill this cylinder, you've well and truly covered your outlay on the equipment. Anyway, if you've got any questions, just send us an email or give us a phone call. Hope you enjoy the videos. Subscribe to them if you want to see what's going on. Join our Facebook group. It's definitely a good spot to share some advice and tips and hints with some other members on there as well. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.